Hello, this is Cuckoo. Today I'm gonna make a Super Nintendo video game cover from a song in a game called Zelda: A Link to the Past. It's one of my favorite songs in video game music history, and I'm gonna do all of the sounds on this synthesizer right here. This is this Jupiter-Xm by Roland. It's a super ambitious synthesizer with so many synth engines in it, and most of them, or all of them, are kind of legacy synth engines that they've revisited and remade on this brand new platform. And it's a really tricky synth to operate, I'd say. But regardless of that, I wanted to dig into one specific synth engine called the XV, which is a recreation of the XV-5080 synthesizer from way back. And it's one of these synth engines that's based on samples largely, and like compact samples. And when I played it, it reminded me so much of the Super Nintendo era, but like much more clarity, I'd say, and more memory. But still, it reminded me of the Super Nintendo. All right, listen to this. Like, I couldn't help but thinking like, whoa, this would be like the perfect Super Nintendo cover machine. So what I'm doing today is making a cover of that very song right there, the Dark Theme. And yeah, let's see how it goes. So in order to explain how the synthesizer works, it gets a little complex, and it gets complex fast. We've got something called scene. I've highlighted these buttons in order to make it easier for myself. Scene, a scene is essentially a collection of sounds, and you can load up a scene really fast, and it has 4 layers of synthesizers and 1 layer of rhythms. Essentially, I'm just going to make a bunch of patches that resemble the ones in the Zelda game. I'm not going to use any of the fancy stuff, but it's still going to be saved within within a scene. So a scene has parts, and each part is made out of a specific synthesizer. So if I press part here, let's say this is the factory preset. If I press part, I can select one of the 4 parts or the drum part. And see, I'm not playing them because I'm just selecting them for editing. But if I'm pressing over here, it says part oscillator on. I can turn on and off the different parts. Play them all at the same time if I want. I'll turn them off. Yeah. So I'm using part number 1, which is currently, I believe, a Jupiter-8. So in order to change the synth type that is loaded onto part 1, I need to go into model. So part 1 is selected. Now it's time to select a different synth there. Press model, bank, and now that that is selected, I can select one of the others. For instance, the XV, which is the one I want to use. XV is now selected. And right now, there is a sound that I already made that is currently selected. So we're going to start out from scratch just to give you an idea of what the XV-5080 is capable of. Now, if you want to compare the XV-5080, which is a sample-based synth, to an analog or a virtual analog or a synthesis synth, the biggest difference, I'd say, is that when you're working with pure synthesis, which is not based on samples, you create the sound through different algorithms and methods. And but with a sample based, you typically start out by browsing a huge library of samples, and that is going to take a lot of time to find the actual sample that you want to work with. So that is, I'd say, the bottleneck of working with a sample-based synth versus a non-sample-based synth. So I'm just going to go through this once, and then I'm going to show you the sounds that I made. So okay, So first of all, now we're on part 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is to initialize a clean sound of this part that I'm in now. So I'm going to, this is a little bit odd, I'm going to right, which is the place where I store sounds, but down there is tone initialize. Doop. Are you really sure? Yeah. So this is the initialized sound of the XV-5080. Yeah. So let's try to find that. Let's see, one of the sounds there. The drum, no. Like the trombone. How about this? The strings. Yeah. Let's try to find a string that sounds kind of like that. So we're editing a part. It's currently a piano sound, and I want to go into a function. When the part is lit, these buttons, they do something corresponding to the part. When model is lit, they're doing the model. If function is lit, they're doing this functionality. If scene is lit, you instantly change into a different scene, and if you haven't saved it, it's going to be lost. So pay attention to scene. If you have the synthesizer, that one, you just need to learn how to pay attention to scene. Even if I'm here on part and I press exit, I'm now in scene. So maybe you haven't even touched the scene button, but you might be on the scene. So just pay attention to that if you're going to learn this, how to use the scene. Okay. We got this piano. I want to go into the sample list and select a different sample. So I'm going to access a shortcut here on the function page and press function and 1. It's going to take me directly to oscillator 1 on this sound. So we're editing part 1. So this is where you turn the layers on and off, the parts on and off. This is where you select which part you're working on, but only if part is lit. So pay attention to that. So I'm on part 1 and I'm functioning, selecting oscillator 1, and now we're going to find where that sample is. Every oscillator has a really long, now take a look at that scroll bar there. It's a very long list of stuff. It's actually a little bit cumbersome to navigate. There is, however, a fast way to jump between sections. As you press shift and up and down, you jump between different segments. So in order to search for the sample, I'm going to go to segment 2 there, tone, and go down, down, down. Okay, there it is. It says piano left in bank A. So let's just browse. I can just hold it down and browse. This is actually very convenient because you can hear where you are and get a super fast impression. Okay, so this is the section where it's more orchestral. Okay. How about this? Oh, this one. Okay, so sometimes there is a left and a right version, and that means it's available in stereo. I'm just gonna remember the number there, and I'm gonna load something on the right channel as well. If you only have something on the left, it's gonna be in mono. So I can have a piano on the left and the string on the right. So let's see here. 268, 69. Is this a good one? And this is where time comes in. you're like, maybe I can find a better sample. And then an hour later, it's like, no, I didn't find a better sample. Where's the sample that I had before? And then an hour later, you found it. So working with sample-based synthesizer is really cool, but it can swallow up a lot of time just scrolling lists. So let's say we're fine with this. Okay. One thing with this synth is that you got a lot of stuff on top here, lots of controls, but the different engines, they work so differently. So these might not even be able to control what they say they will control. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And sometimes you think you're controlling something, but then you're within a specific oscillator and it gets a little bit complex. So we're now on oscillator 1, which is called partial one. So there are two kind of design languages going on. It's oscillator 1 is the generating the sound, which is here in the menu called partial in this case. So it's a part of the part. It's a partial of. Sorry. Okay. So I'm gonna head down here to go to the amp envelope. I'll take a look at these while I change the envelope here. And this is clever. I could say that, okay, I want to change the envelope, but only for the amp. Okay, let's see if this does what I hope it will. I'm gonna make a slow attack. Yeah. Fast attack. Decay. And sustain. Maybe like that. That's not too bad. Okay, let's have a look listen at the one. Of course, this has a much more modern feel to it, but it's in the same atmosphere, I'd say. I have a little bit of release time, maybe. Not to make it too abrupt. Like so. So right now I'm editing the envelope of this partial, of this oscillator. So each oscillator can have its own envelope. And there are 4 oscillators in every, in this case, in the XV. Some of the synths, they have 2 oscillators or 3. The XV has 4. Okay. So let's say we're happy with that. Let's move on and mess with the EQ. Every synth, I think, I'm not sure. I think every synth has an EQ. I'm going to press shift and down, LFO, LFO, EQ. Okay, here we go. And this is also one of these things where I'm like, what? Why did you do it like that? It's okay. We've got EQ settings. Great, great, great. And the bottom, there's an EQ switch. So to turn on the EQ, it's the thing in the bottom, not the first option, which one would think. Okay, so now the EQ is on, and I can mess with the EQ. I think it's a little bit muddy. So I'm going to pull some bass out of it, see what it sounds like. I'm just doing extreme changes first to see what it sounds like. So I took up all of the bass. I'm going to bring it back in. Yeah, I'm going to keep it like... I mean, when you're doing the EQ, it's about where you want the instrument in the mix. It can sound really great and full and with a lot of bass in it, but once you start mixing, you realize that, oh, this was actually supposed to be a lead sound, and so I'm going to pull some bass out of it. And then I'm going to see in the mid section there if we can get it to be more in your face, like the one on the Nintendo. It's really in your face. So the mid section would be a good, yeah. Maybe too much. I'm gonna be extreme. Ooh, like around that. So I'm making a cover. I'm not making a replica. So I'm gonna mix it and make sounds that have the same functionality in the song, but not necessarily going like to make it exactly like that. So I think once you start listening to this song, I mean, I love that song, but the mix is like super dense. Everything is going on in the mid register. Like, oh, could you have a little bit more bass perhaps and spread it out a bit? So I think I'm gonna spread it out a little bit. Now this is cool. I'm gonna mess with the high gain as well. Bring some brilliance out of it. Yeah. Maybe too much. Now it's still kind of in the background. The more brilliance, kind of more attention it wants. Okay. Okay, so let's say we're happy with that. Let's try to mess around with the velocity settings. I'm gonna head up again to, let's say where we are. Velocity, tone, pan, envelope, delay, wave, velocity curve, bias, level. Yeah, there we are. Level, velocity sensitivity, velocity curve. I'm just gonna take the level velocity sensitivity up. I like velocity for playing, but in this case, I think I'm gonna keep it to 0 because when recreating video game music, which is programmed, there is very little velocity involved in this kind of music. So if I just play with too much velocity, it's gonna feel a bit uneven when you're trying to recreate this kind of static programmed music. So I'm gonna keep the velocity off for now. Okay, yeah. So what else can we do to kind of enhance this sound a little bit? Okay, let's mess with the reverb a bit. Let's see, master effect, init tone, effects, reverb. There we go. So right now, got different reverbs. Large hold. Level. Okay, time. Okay. Just a tad of a reverb. One thing that I want to try is the last thing, master effects. So let's see what master effects is. Type through equalize. Okay, so let's see what kind of master effects we got. There's a lot of cool ones here though. Master effect. And actually there's one, where is it? Like, let's see, an old school compressor that sounds bonkers. Limiter, sustainer, delay, step, multi-time. Lo-fi compressor, I sound. This is a cool, actually this could actually contribute to getting this low bit kind of vibe. Yeah, I'm not going to use that though, not in this case. I'm going to use something called Speaker Simulator. And what that is doing is that it's simulating a speaker cabinet and a microphone pointed at it, and to give it more of an acoustically recorded vibe, I'd say. So let's see what it sounds like with and without that effect. So without. Okay, so if you're happy with this, you want to save it, press right, and so you can save both the scene that you just made and the part, the tone, the sound, the patch of this particular sound. You need to save both, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I think the scene is loading the parts where they're stored. So if you change a part and save that part, I think that will be loaded into it next time. So I'm going to save the part 1 tone now. There's a lot of words here. Okay, initialize, okay, there. I'm going to call it, okay, shift and left is delete when you're in this editor. And I'm going to call it links string 2, because I made one before. Just want to keep track of what I'm doing. And enter. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. I'm not going to store the scene because it's just for demo. Instead, I'm going to load in the other sounds now. So we just made this sound. Let's load in the sounds that I made in preparation for this song. So, okay. First of all, I'm just going to navigate to that particular scene, which is Link's Orchestra. Okay. Part 1. It's not the one. Oops. Yeah. It's pretty close. Yeah. So let's listen to the different sounds I made. That was the strings, and what's here? Actually, I was trying to do all sorts of different trumpet sounds and like horns, and to try to nail that particular vibe that is in this. But in the end, the closer I kind of got to that particular vibe, I felt like it didn't really work out that well, and it got more and more muddy. So I ended up with more of a trumpet sound. And actually, it's made out of 2 layers. I wanted to have some of that hiss that is constantly in these low bit kind of recordings of the Super Nintendo. So without the hiss, it's more of a straight trumpet sound. But with the hiss, I found a trumpet hiss in the sample library and mixed it in. Okay, so the next part would be this. There is one place in the song where there's a flute. Here. Hidden in the mix is this flute. And that flute is only there. just like that. So that's the flute. Let's see what this is. I was struggling so much to create a bass that sounded that fit this vibe. I tried like pizzicato bass strings. I tried to build up loads of layers to try to make it sound exactly like in the game. Like there's so many overtones and artifacts, but in the end, I tried so many different approaches. In the end, it's just too much. I was overdoing it. But in the end, I ended up with this sound. That's which has more of a string bass section. I've mixed a number of sounds there. Let's see what different sounds. 1, 3, and 4. So there are 3 layers here. 1, which is the main sound. I could have used only that, it'd be fine. But then I wanted a little hiss. So I was using that trumpet hiss again, which I thought had this nice vibe. And 3, this is a sub bass. It's very like a very subtle organ sound that I kept 1 octave below the other ones, because I thought this alone didn't have that oomph of a bass. And now there's just a tad of a rumble of a bass in there, and with a hiss has a little bit more of that lo-fi presence. Yeah, so is that it? No, there's one more. Okay, part. I'm gonna take another part in there. Let's see. I had one more trumpet, bass, horn. Because in the song, there's the normal kind of trumpet sound, but then, and now, this is where the English horn, or French horn, I guess, comes in. So in order to address that, I made this sound. This kind of horn sound. And as you can hear, some of them they don't sound like super acoustic or anything. And one of the things that I find charming with this XV-5080 engine is that it's relatively, I mean, there's a huge set of samples that you can choose from, probably more than what was in the actual synth. I think they're making available many of their legacy sample libraries, and I think kind of part of the charm is that kind of low memory approach to samples. So yeah, I'm vibing with that. So okay, so that was it. That was how to build a sound. Sorry for getting lengthy, but it is a little bit complex, and I wanted to make everyone understand what makes it into a sound. So from now on, let's just have fun and play that song and build it up layer by layer. And these are the parts you need to play, to make this song into this lovely music that it is. Okay, so that's it for the first part. And if you're still watching, which you are, because you can hear me talking now, which means hello, welcome to part 2. Part 1 was all about the sound engine that we're using, XV-5080, and the second part is about the music. So let's create this song track by track. And when listening to the song, let's do that. Let's see. It's right here. So. It's nice. There is one thing that is pretty much static throughout the whole song, and it's the drums. Let's listen to just the drums here for a second. That's the first version of the drums. A little bit later, it's the second version. It sounds like this. That's triplets in there, and then the third one towards the end is like this. So those three different versions of the rhythm is all we need for drums in this part. So I think I'm going to do that first. I'm not a drummer. I don't have super tight timing like a drummer has. So this is actually going to be a challenge. And let's try to record the drums. And if I can't have that tight timing that we want, then I'm going to correct it digitally afterwards. So what I want to do, at least in one of the takes, is dum 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 to kind of nail the dynamics. This is programmed, and when you're going to hear the same loop over and over again, it's going to be immensely annoying if it's not precise. So that's what I'm aiming for, precision. Okay, let's do this. 1, 2. You know, there was one take in there that was that sounded pretty okay. As you can hear, my timing is not very precise. So let's see. That one, I'm going to isolate that and place it in the beginning and loop it. Yeah, we can hear that the timing is not too bad actually, but it's not precise. So let's go in there, zoom it in like this, and see what we can do. I'm going to turn on flex, and I'm going to keep it at rhythmic. Okay, there you go. So first thing I'm going to do is to just extend this. First one is a little bit early, so I'm going to move the first one into exactly there. I'm going to make it kind of very robotic. That should be it. So I made the ones you see in white gray are the corrections I made. So not like huge corrections. I'm going to cut this into perfect loop and then listen to it. Okay, I'm happy with that. So the second one, okay. Okay, that is awful, as bad. The last one, let's see, it sounded all right. You know, that is actually, it's like the thing that I was mostly worried about was the triplets. But looking at it here, the triplets, they're kind of fine. Maybe this one is a little bit early or late. Okay, let's listen to it again. Yeah. Okay. That was actually a pretty good first take. So let's listen to the first one. Just because it's fun, I'm gonna take the first take there because I'm so proud of it. If you hear the fan going, it's the fan on my machine that is screen recording. I hope you appreciate that. Okay, so that's one track. So what's next? Let's take the bass. It should be relatively easy, and it's always good to have the bass to play against. So we've got the bass. In order to understand the bass, where it's going, I think I'm gonna keep some of the other tracks. Okay, let's take it in segments. When you're recording and overdubbing something, I think it's nice to have what you're trying to overdub on one side of your ears, like right or left. I'm gonna put the original bass on my left ear. It sounds a little bit annoying, but then it's much easier for me to know what I'm playing and what's the playback. So foreplay. Once again. Okay, from there. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and. Okay, I messed up again. Yeah, I kind of messed up. And then we're yeah. So that's the bass. So that was 3 takes and a couple of retakes. So yeah, good. That's pretty good. So the next one should be yeah, which one? So now we've got drums. Nice. Yeah, the thumping trumpets. Okay, so let's find them. Find them and destroy them. Brass. It's actually 2, and they're kind of slightly panned. So I'm going to take them in 2 takes. I'm going to take the lower one first. So I'm going to pan the lower one to the left. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can make it. I can do this. And over. Yeah. So C minor in the beginning. I'm gonna put the brass of the original to the left to hear myself and not mix myself with the playback. Okay. 2, 3, and. Let's go up and not down. Okay, so the next part is there. Yeah, I can do this. 1, 2. I'm gonna have to listen to that again. Okay, yeah. It's I had the right idea. I'm just playing it wrong. Let's do it right. I'm doing the same thing again. I want a clean take, that's it. Now it's the upper part. So let's do the same thing again, but with the upper. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Foreplay. I'm gonna listen to this. Okay, and then next time. Okay, got it. Let's just nail it. Okay, let's do it again. What's that? Okay, yeah, brass. Well, not all the brass, but everything until the horn comes in. Okay, so it's about following the chord progression, and then you'll be fine. So I think that was it. It makes sense once the upper one. Okay, let's see. Ah, one tone. I want a clean take. That's why I'm doing the whole thing over and over again. That's what I'm talking about, a clean take. Rhythmically, maybe not the cleanest, but I'm gonna take it. Okay. So, sounds like we're getting somewhere now. Yeah, nice. And what about the iconic strings? About here, the first one comes in. Sounds like this. I'm gonna use the bass. Okay, let's do this. I know this part in my heart. I've heard it so many times. I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna pan the listening track to the left, so I can separate my own playing. Two, three, four, and then the next part. Okay, perfection. Kept it a little bit long, and this one is cool. Yeah, that was a good take right there. So the strings are in check, and then we got the next string track, which is the middle one. Okay, that's a little bit tricky. Okay, I'm gonna rehearse. Yeah, and then that is actually just a little tab there. Actually, I don't think I noticed that before. Perfection. The perfect take. Okay, I realized that sound, it's maybe not a string, but I'm gonna roll with it and see what it sounds like. Yeah, it sounds okay. Okay, so we got one more violin thing that is gonna happen. Okay, let's try this. That was a first take. I'm gonna keep it. It's not the best, but I'm so proud of this first take, so I'm gonna keep it that. Okay, yeah. What is that? Is that it? No, we got like we got the horns, we got the brass. It's the flute and that extra trumpet by the end. So let's see. In the beginning, I didn't initially hear the flute in the arrangement, and I turned off that channel in the emulator. It's right here. Yeah, I just did a perfect take while the battery died on the camera. So let's do it again. Yeah, I think that's it. Is that it? Okay, let's turn off and on and off everything, and let's listen to it together and crank up the volume a little bit. So. Okay, so we've got the strings there. We've got the cool. Yeah, and a perfect loop. Yeah. I like this. Yeah, I think we did it. So I've made my first Zelda cover. This is my first. That's insane. So many hugely amazing, fantastic songs coming out of the Zelda series. And not that I'm making cover songs all the time, but Zelda, yeah, I should have done more Zelda stuff. I like this. Yeah, so there you go. This is my Zelda cover done with the Jupiter-Xm, which is a really nice package of a synth, I'd say. I've only covered this one sound engine, and I've kept it fairly kind of in this low end of what it's capable of, because I think it reminded me of the Super Nintendo. But in fact, there's a lot of much higher end samples in there, and now with the latest update, you can actually, to some degree, get your own samples. Is it your own samples? You can have additional samples in there. I'm not sure if it's from a library or if you can create your own samples, but that is something I want to investigate. Yeah, I like this, and of course the other sound engines are pretty good too in this little package of a synth. That's it for today. If you enjoy what I'm doing here on YouTube and think you would like to support me, there's a way to do that. If you head over to Patreon and support me over there, you can support me on a monthly basis. With every time I come up with a video such as this or a tutorial of something else, you support me with $1 or $2 or maybe $3, maybe $5. It's up to you. And you can set a monthly limit too, so that it suits your personal economy. So that I appreciate everyone that does that. It helps me immensely to come out with such videos such as this. So if you want to head up to Patreon and support me, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. If you want, there's a lot of sample packs and stuff on my web store, store.truecuckoo.com. And if you like my t-shirts that I'm wearing, I designed myself, head over to t-shirts.truecuckoo.com. It's stuff over there for everyone. And yeah, with that, I'll leave you with this lovely little Zelda cover.